What was the very first psychological trick you learned that blew your mind? Kill him with kindness. Woo lad, nothing eats away at your enemies like that. Short, sweet, simple, and confident does the trick. You could get into a massive argument for hours. Fight, cuss, spit, punch, kick. Nothing will really burn them at the core quite as much as being nice to them. I believe it is a psychological trick because they usually don't expect it. They know you're enemies, and it throws them into a loop and off guard. I bumped into my old boss recently. He had absolutely royally screwed me over before I quit. Stabbed me square in the back to protect his own hide. I gave him this huge smile, said hey name, good to see you. He gave a weird frown and returned hi. How have you been? Better than ever. How about you? Fine. He made an obvious effort to keep walking and avoid a conversation. I bumped into him again before I left the place we were at and gave him a nod, nice smile, and the 3-finger wave sort of like a salute. His face said it all. I hate that guy. Why is he happy? Stop talking. If you want to get more information out of someone, just let them speak. There are times in a conversation that things stop. Most people want to fill this themselves, but don't. Let the other person do it. This is especially useful if you think the person and their story is full of shit. As a former salesperson, I actually started using this technique in both selling and buying situations. You'd be shocked how many people will sit and talk themselves into buying something. Or on the flip side, how many salespeople will start negotiating with themselves if you just stay quiet. I got a pretty good deal on my last car without saying a word. Whenever my toddler refuses to do something, I start doing it. Then they get all angry cause they wanna do it. Idiots. I tell mine that I'm giving her a choice between 2 things. The catch is that both of the choices are things that I want to have happen. Example, toddler won't nap. I say, would you like to have some juice and then take your nap? Or would you like to take a nap without any juice? Those are obviously the same 2 things, but one has juice, and suddenly the nap becomes more appealing. Another helpful one is to move the goalposts. Instead of it's time for a nap, you can try I'll only read 3 Little Pigs for nap time today and let them argue about wanting Red Riding Hood, while nap time then becomes a given. It's a lifesaver getting out the door in the morning. Kid is throwing a tantrum about not wanting to wear the outfit you chose, so instead of discussing the outfit, you talk about what cereal you have for breakfast, and their little contrary brain shifts the tantrum to breakfast choices and forgets they were meant to be arguing about their outfit. It's time for breakfast and you can start talking about which jacket to wear and erect the toddler tantrum onto that. Eventually their little brain gets distracted and forgets they are meant to be disagreeing with everything you suggest. Kid demanding something at the store. Ask who will be the one to select pasta off the shelf. Who will unload the cart on the conveyor belt? Who will unlock the car? And so forth, just shifting everything up a step. Don't judge, but this technique seriously saved my sanity. Working as a waitress. If I noticed a customer was getting particularly impatient and it looked like they were going to be rude to me when I went over, when I would take the food over, and before they got the chance to speak, I'd say something like, so sorry for the wait. Thanks for being so lovely about it. It seemed to catch them off guard and paint them as a nice guy in my eyes, and more often than not their expression would change from pissed off to surprised. Then they'd say something like, oh no problem, it's okay, so they could keep being the nice guy and feel good about themselves, and I avoid chewing out. My first workplace trick that I still use regularly: people will procrastinate with their own work, but drop everything to quickly correct someone else's work. Example, Bill needs to provide a paragraph of text to go in your company's brochure. He's been dragging his feet forever, and it's the last thing you're waiting on, but he keeps putting it off. Go to where his paragraph should be and write a shitty version of what he's supposed to do. Don't invest more than 10 seconds. We do widget services. We are good at it. Our services are good for your widget needs. Send it to Bill saying, hey, I filled in the last paragraph about widget services, can you check and make sure it meets your criteria? And I'll send it along to the boss for approval. You'll have Bill's polished, fully composed text in about 10 minutes. A therapist told me that anger is a secondary emotion and should be treated like a traffic light. You should stop at yellow before jumping to red. Ask yourself, what was the first thing come to your mind triggered you? Is it being ignored, feeling trapped, unheard, insecure, etc.? Because your first thought is what you actually feel. Here anger comes last. I'm a calm-natured person, rarely get angry. This advice helped me to identify my weaknesses and anxiety. You can apply this to any emotion, not just anger. Whatever you're scared of doing is only going to last 2 seconds. Then you'll blink and it will be months later and you'll wonder why you were even worried. I figured this out in 8th grade before a presentation I was terrified of giving. And I think of that moment every time I'm nervous to do something, and now I'm 28. Time flies. No point of worrying about it. I taught teenagers in a really tough London school. A colleague taught me a brilliant trick to get a kid to calm down when they were angry. Look them calmly in the eye and say, what do you want to happen next? Most of the time they were so caught up in emotion they hadn't thought about the consequences of thidkery. As soon as you prod them to think about consequences, most of them would calm down straight away. Thanks to Dilbert Man Scott Adams, I learned the Wally reflector at a young age. It's very simple. If someone tries to pawn their work off on you, ask them to do something for you first related to said task. 9 times out of 10 they'll leave and try to find someone else. Hey, can you finish this report for me? I'm going on vacation and want to leave a little early to beat traffic to the airport. Sure, I'd love to help, but could you possibly send me a quick email with a bullet point list of what needs to be in the report, just so I don't miss anything? On second thought, give young kids the illusion they are making a decision to do something that you really want them to do. Kid won't eat their carrots and wants dessert now. You say to them, do you want to eat your carrots first and then dessert? Or would you like to save your dessert for tomorrow and eat your carrots now? Paying someone a compliment before a difficult conversation or fight. Specifically, one tied to the value in your opinion of them. For example, I really appreciate the mature, level-headed way you handled yourself in our last discussion, or your patience and understanding in situations like this is something I really admire about you. It's the upgraded, more subtle version of the thank you for your understanding line you see in customer service a lot. The I and me pronouns are important, as it changes a generic compliment into an opinion or feeling you have about them. It sets a subconscious goal for the person that they will often try to live up to. It's like the subconscious goes, why yes, I'm those things. Let me prove that you're right. But also adds a little weight that your opinion of them will decrease if they don't. Sometimes I feel bad for using it, because it's almost too manipulative, especially if I'm lying about that opinion. If you want to be involved in any work environment, or feel like an insider during work, you gotta greet everyone you meet right away. If you missed them, turn around, go back, and say something like, sorry, I didn't catch your name. I am. If you don't have time, then take the next chance. Even if it's just a hi or a wave, people will see you as assertive and approachable. It doesn't really matter if you're introverted and don't speak to them for the rest of the day or whatever. It kills most of the awkwardness associated with being social with people you may or may not know. Plus, it sets you up for healthy teamwork. Always give a reason when you ask for something. Even the most stupid reason, like in this example. You are in a line for the printer and you ask the guy in front of you, hey, mind if I go first, I have to use the printer. This exact experiment has been done, and you were successful more often when you give that reason. I find that when I ask someone if they'd like to be a rewards member, they're more civil with me if I say, would you like to be a rewards member or no? I figure that by saying no at the end I'm insinuating that is completely fine to say no, I don't want to be. I use this on everyone. I've had customers that I see get short with other cashiers when they ask them this. I then ask them my way whenever I'm cashiering, and they're completely civil about it. I almost always get from these same people, no thanks, not today. I guess some people view this questions as nuisance because in their mind they feel like they are asked this every time at a lot of stores. Humans have a tendency to take or give things if you put your hand out while talking to them. Really common in sales or just messing with friends. In sales I often hand the person the item I'm selling, and most often they take it without even realizing it. More likely to buy it too. I've chatted with a friend and put my hand out and he just gave me his phone. 5 minutes later he's wondering where his phone is. Minimizing. If you feel like something is a really big chore or you just can't get yourself to get up and go do something, minimize it to a small insignificant part. Instead of doing all the garden work, say you're just going to take the tools out so when you want to work you can. 90% of the time once you're up and doing the small thing, the big bad chore doesn't seem so bad now and you end up doing it. People who feel guilty will over-explain to justify their actions. I do insurance claims. I don't need to know why you backed into a pole. I don't care. It's covered. All I need is the incident and damage description. But man, some people feel so bad about it. They won't stop going on about how the sun was in their eyes, but they should have looked better, and they can't believe it happened. And they have a reversing camera and sensors which were supposed to help, but they didn't, and they are so angry with themselves, and it's a new car and they can't believe they've done this. You know how small yappy dogs and tiny mice running around are terrifying despite us logically being much larger? Well, in kendo there is a disarming scream, where you run at your opponent with a loud scream. When I've attempted doing my kendo practice, despite warning the person of what I'm about to do, they inevitably drop the sword and can't take it. I've used this trick even without my old bamboo practice sword, i.e. I ran at a violent mugger who was beating a young student. I'm a small woman, but the guy still ran off. I've also used this trick to literally throw a guy more than twice my size. Don't recommend, unless you know how to do a judo throw. So basically, if you don't have an alternative, loud scream coinciding with running at your opponent works very well at disarming someone. This works in sports as well. In high school, our basketball coach would have us just loudly yell ball 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 when we were playing 1-1 defense. You could see the other players getting confused and angry, causing them to make mistakes. This had the added benefit of letting our teammates know where the play was without having to take their eyes off the players they were defending against. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.